And even better is when you find even the smallest act that is respectful from this person towards you, and you recognize that and you value it and you express your gratitude in that moment, very specifically in the way we said before, with the observation, hey, when I did this thing, for example, I got your lunch ready, and you recognize that, and this and that really meant a lot to me. I felt very respected. Thank you for that. Then you start giving them a map for what to do more of, because oftentimes people don't do it out of bad will or anything like that, or bad intentions. They just don't know. They don't know how to do things differently. So you need to tell them.
Welcome to the Gratitude Podcast on www.georgianbenta.com, where you'll hear a new story each week that will inspire more gratitude in your own life. Our mission is to inspire 100,000 people to discover how to feel gratitude and live a happy life through the amazing life stories of our successful guests and their actionable tips. And now, the host of our podcast, Georgian Benta.
Hi, Gratitude Seeker. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today with us, we have a nonviolent communication consultant, facilitator, and coach. Her company, Bright Communication, provides simple and powerful communication and collaboration tools that support organizations and individuals align with and live out their values. I think it's such an interesting topic and such an important topic for us to talk about, because we all have to or get to communicate one way or another, and at times we might have challenges ourselves, or there are other people that have challenges communicating with us in a harmonious way, in a compassionate way. And Nati Beltran is here with us to talk about this topic and also to explore what this nonviolent communication has to do with gratitude. Nati, welcome to the Gratitude Podcast.
Thank you, Georgian, and thank you for having me. It's my great pleasure and honor to be here with you all.
Thank you for accepting my invitation, and let us know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I came to nonviolent communication actually through being a parent, through being a mom, and in wanting to communicate, as you said, very harmoniously, compassionately, but yet my habits of communication and relating were taking over, and I didn't know how. I didn't know how to stop doing the things that weren't working in communication, and I didn't know what else I could be doing. So I found nonviolent communication, or NVC, and it completely changed my life. And then I started learning how to relate differently, with more empathy, how to listen with a deeper attitude, and really accepting the other person, how to be grateful for the things that are working really well and that are going well for me in my life, and how to address those things that are not working so well, but still see the positive side as well. So it just changed my whole attitude in life and in relationships. And then I also learned to apply it to work, and it also started changing my life at work and in how I could express myself, even difficult messages, in a way that was nonviolent, in a way that was supportive of myself and of other people. So it was a long and very beautiful learning journey.
I think you mentioned something really interesting that we've all been through, and the fact that we would like to be able to communicate non-violently, but we can't do that all the time. And especially with our loved ones, sometimes it can really be a challenge. And even though we might appreciate them a lot, there are times in which we fail to do that. How can we improve? What are some things that we can do to improve our communication towards a more nonviolent communication?
Yeah, it's true, Georgian. It's so difficult at times, especially in really intimate relationships. So much gets in the way. I think our habits, taking a really close and very honest look at our habits, both of thinking and of talking and of acting, that's a really good beginning. Once you realize what you're doing that is not creating connection or that is creating disconnection actively, then you can start finding ways to changing that. For example, whenever we express a judgment or whenever we express an interpretation of what's happened that is our own interpretation, but we express it as a truth or as a fact, most people on the other side receiving that are going to react with some kind of resistance or upset. Whereas if we instead can express an observation, which is much more factual, more the thing that happened without the story we added to it, then people are more willing, more eager to listen to that. And then we don't engage in this in fights or even in disagreements or in making each other right or wrong. We can move beyond those habits and start connecting more deeply with each other. So that's one thing that we could do. I think also, identifying the mindsets that we carry from our culture. For example, I think very related to gratitude and appreciation is this mindset we have that we focus on the negative all the time. And in part is because our brain works that way. We need to detect what's not working in order to then meet our needs better. But that becomes a habit of thinking. So we're constantly focusing on what it isn't working, what the other person is doing that is not meeting our needs, and on we go, as opposed to taking a step back and noticing that this mindset is happening inside us and changing the mindset to one of more positivity, more gratitude, of maybe the intention that the other person has. Even if their actions are not working, they likely have a good intention. So we can be grateful for that. And from that place, we can tell them what's not working. But it's very different to come at a conversation with gratitude or with a positive and a hopeful attitude, as opposed to a very negative attitude. Does that make sense to you, Georgian?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think it's a wonderful way in which we can apply gratitude and actually use it in our communication, because once we are able to do that, it's much easier to communicate in a way that is actually helpful for the relationship, because many times it's hard for us to be grateful if we are in a state of if we are fighting with someone, especially
Yeah.
if it's someone that's dear to us. And I think that's one of the best things that nonviolent communication can help us with, is managing these discussions in a way in which we don't feel the need to focus on them as much, because
Yeah.
when we have that perspective that we haven't been communicating in a way that works for us and in which we feel okay, and we by the end of the conversation we tend to focus a lot on that particular topic and on that
Yeah.
particular fight, let's say. And I'm sure that you have some really interesting perspectives also from a neuroscience point of view, right?
Yeah. That's right. I do. And, just to recap something you've just said, which is very important, is another mindset that is pervasive in our culture, which is this mindset of separation. We focus on ourselves and we see ourselves as separate from everybody else. Whereas if we can come into the conversation as with a mindset of togetherness, of we're in this together, even a fight, even a disagreement or a conflict, you can turn it into we're holding this together and we're prioritizing, and we so value our relationship and our connection even when we're disconnected. It gives you a focus and a picture of what to move towards, which the brain then follows in a way. Does that make sense, Georgian?
Yeah, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
But
it can make all the difference.
isn't separation a part of this? Like, isn't uh, for instance, if it's a conflict, and for instance, I think it would be great if we could just take an example of maybe, like you said, um, maybe a conflict or a communication situation in which you can apply nonviolent communication, for instance, between a mother and a child or something like this. Could you
Yeah.
give us an example of how this could actually work?
Of course, imagine a simple situation with a young child who is maybe running around the house, right? Maybe they have guests and the child is very excited and the child is running around the house. And the mother would like the child to be a little bit more quiet so they can talk to the guests, something like that. So, what the mother would express, first of all, would be the observation of what the child is doing and how that is impacting other people. So she might say something like, you're running around the house. Are you very excited? So she's acknowledging the feelings in the child. And the child would then, and waiting for resonance, the child would then say, yes, I haven't seen them for so long and this and that. And the mom is like, yeah, I can see how excited you are. And she says, however, this is getting a little loud for us to be able to hear each other when we talk, and I'd love to hear our guests. Would you also like to be part of the conversation? So then she starts talking about the needs, that maybe the action is not meeting, but she's not judging the action, she's not judging the child, she's accepting that this child is excited and that's why they're running. And then when she focuses on the needs, it helps the other person understand, in this case the child, how that action is not meeting the needs of other people and how they can contribute to that. So she might make a request. Would you be willing to come and sit with us on the sofa? Or would you be willing to go outside if they have a garden and run around a little bit and then come back? Or, they find solutions together. But she comes at it from acknowledging the child's feelings and also needs. Yeah, do you need to move? Are you so excited you need to move? And also, we are so excited to see each other. We want to have a little bit of quiet so we can hear each other. So she lays all of that on the table, everybody's feelings, everybody's needs. And from that, you partner up together into finding a solution that works to meet everybody's needs. So how can we do this in a way that works for everybody? So if the child says, I just want to run around, she says, right, and that would need your need for movement, but then we can't hear each other. So how else can we find a way that works for us too? And together they find whatever creative solution. It's quite amazing that when the needs are identified and the needs of everybody, and there's this willingness to meet everybody's needs, then a creative solution emerges.
That's so true. And that it makes so much sense, because when you feel that you are understood and accepted, you don't feel the need to fight the other person, to to fight for yourself somehow, because you, like you said, you are on the same team, you are together in this, you feel seen, you feel that you are a part of the story, and that you are able to contribute to it. So you don't feel the need
Exactly.
to be violent or to be to take on the same kind of behavior as before. That
Yeah,
makes so much sense.
exactly. Because this way of approaching conflict, for example, or differences, meets so many needs, as you said, to be seen, to be understood, to be validated or valued, to be for togetherness. Even in the conflict, there's some sense of togetherness, and that connects people to their best nature, their compassionate nature, and their desire to contribute to other people, as you say. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Relationship Hero. Are you struggling with getting back your ex, coping with a breakup, moving on, dating, breaking unhealthy relationship patterns, or dealing with mixed signals? Start working with a professional certified relationship coach now on relationshiphero.com/gratitude. Relationship Hero is the #1 relationship coaching service in the world with an average of 4.9 stars on Trustpilot. Here's what people are saying about the service. This has been my sanity over the last month. I have found this really great for me since the breakup. I'm really grateful for the advice she has been giving me. It has helped me change my perspective. Despite being busy with his schedule, Maxi never fails to check up on me periodically. It has changed the way I look at relationships. Go to relationshiphero.com/gratitude to support the Gratitude Podcast and get $50 off your first 1-hour coaching session. That's relationshiphero.com/gratitude, but you will also find the link in the description. Wow, I love this.
Yeah.
But I was also wondering if this nonviolent communication can help us with the people that are communicating violently one way or another. So many of us might not have a challenge with writing their gratitudes or focusing on the gratitude, but might have a big challenge in being able to be grateful when maybe their boss or other people in the family are communicating violently. Are there some
Yeah.
things that we can do to manage this?
Yeah. You know, when we're in the face of violence, probably the most powerful tool we have, and everybody has this because it's a simple human ability, is the ability to be empathic. So to really listen to the other person and to see their point of view. It does not mean you're agreeing with what they're saying, but it does mean you give them a chance to be seen. And as you said before, it relaxes them. It starts creating something new between people. Now, to be able to do that when somebody's being violent, especially towards you, you need a high level of skill. So this needs practice. Even though we all have the ability to be empathic, in hard situations, it's only there accessible to us when we have practiced it. Otherwise, we go into defensive mode usually. But imagine it would look something like this. Someone's maybe screaming at me, sending me all sorts of judgments. And I would say something like, it happened in a workshop I was giving a few months ago that a participant came late and he thought something else was going on. He wanted something else. So he tried to tell me that. And I first acknowledged him and his experience and said something like, so from what I'm hearing, you're dissatisfied because of this, because of that, and you'd like it to be different in this way and that way. Am I getting you correctly? So you simply, in simple words, reflect back what you're hearing them say, especially the needs that are not being met for them. Yeah? That usually relaxes them greatly. You know, there's a study in neuroscience that has been replicated now many times, and it's that when we name our feelings, no matter how heightened they are, your physiology relaxes. So there's a sense of regulation, that we call it down regulation. So that imagine you're really angry. If you say, I'm angry, you will feel less angry. Even you doing that to yourself. So when you do that to another person, their emotions relax a bit. It's like you're helping them to regulate, and they'll be probably less violent as a result of that. So you give that a little bit of time. Now, it must be remembered that you're not agreeing and you're not allowing, say, physical violence or even verbal violence against you all the time. It's not about that. It's not about accepting violence. It's about changing violence by connecting with the humanity in the person who is doing it. Now, for that, we need to understand the needs that are motivating the behavior or the words that they're saying. Yeah, does that make sense, Georgian?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I was thinking about the fact that many times, I'm not sure if in all of the situations, people who are violent or are communicating violently do that. What I like to think about is similarly to what babies do when they are crying out
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah. And
They,
oftentimes they want to be seen. They want to be they want to know that they matter to someone. So if you actually take the time to see them neutrally without adding your own judgment, even if you don't like what they're doing, you just really give them because they're a human being. It can be simple. It's a commitment to being compassionate in a way, to everybody because they're all human beings, even though the action is having tragic consequences. But that changes once the person's needs are starting to be met and they find new ways to meet the action, to meet their need by different action. So they do need your feedback as well afterwards. Once they've come down a little bit, then you need to tell them how what they're doing or saying is not meeting your needs. And what else you can request of them? Well, would you do this thing instead? Some positive action they can take to meet your needs better. Yeah, you give them a path for how to act differently, that is less costly to your needs or other people's needs. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
So
perfect sense.
yeah, it's very, very empowering, very empowering.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because many times, at least in my case, I'm not sure it works the same for all of the people, but usually when we care about people and we care about the relationships, if we have any kinds of conflicts, we tend to focus on them, and it's harder to feel grateful, and it's harder to focus on the good things in life in general and in that particular relationship as well. And that's why I believe this nonviolent communication can be very helpful for us to to free ourselves from that negative focus.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing that really helps to drift away from that negative focus, as you say, is to see what needs of yours are being met. In a relationship, for example, say you're having a difficult time in a relationship, say even for months and or even years, and some needs of yours are really not being met to the degree or in the way that you would love. Well, first of all, once you identify that, you can find some other ways to meet those same needs, maybe with other people. Maybe you're expecting too much of this person, right? Could be. Or
Hmm.
maybe you decide that too many needs are unmet and you decide to leave even. But you can do that with gratefulness, because you can also see the needs that have been met. You can see the intentions that this person had to meet your needs, even if they didn't know how, or if they didn't end up meeting them. So you can turn that negativity very naturally. It just turns into gratefulness, because you can see the beauty of the needs met, or at the very least, the intention to meet the needs, your needs.
And how can we do that? Like, especially in a situation when we tend to get defensive and have a different focus. Do you have some tips on how we can flip that, on how we can see the whole picture better? Because I also know from neuroscience that we tend to get used to the positive things and to the good things that we appreciate about another human being or a certain relationship. But when there are conflicts or situations that aren't particularly harmonious, we tend to give that situation quite a lot of our attention and energy. How can we
Yeah.
flip that?
I think, as you say, and exactly for that reason, it takes a little bit of effort to see the positive and stay with the positive. So that's one thing that we just need to accept, that because our brain has a negativity bias that focuses on the negative and on the things that make us feel, the things that are difficult for us, it's almost like it puts more light on those. And we tend to get habituated to the things that are working well. So we can choose to look at the things that we can be grateful for and give them more space. Literally, when something happens, say there's a nice look from this person, or there's a hug, or a nice word, a kind word, we can take a moment to let that go in. Yeah. Oftentimes we go by those moments and we don't let them be taken in. But if we consciously make the effort to absorb them, almost let them sink into you, into your body, then it becomes a positive aspect of your brain and your mind. So you're more likely to have that accessible later. So that's on the positive side. On the negative side, I think if we start looking at these habits we have, so have I created disconnection? Am I seeing myself as separate? Am I just focusing on the lack of my need that is not met? But can I connect with this beauty, the beauty of this need? For example, I might want respect. How beautiful it is to want respect. And you probably want respect for you, for the other person, for everybody. If you connect with that energy of that need, it's much more positive than connecting with the lack, the fact that in this moment or in this relationship right now is not being met in the way you would like. Yeah. So it makes it much more likely that you find a way to meet it better. Whereas if you come from the lack, you're more likely to blame, to cause some kind of conflict. Yeah. If you come from the possibility of this need being met and the fact that you want your needs to be met, then you can ask for something that is going to make it be met more likely. And other people will respond better, because if you come from the lack, from the what is not happening, people feel a lot of obligation and they can be a bit scared off. Whereas if you come from an energy of positivity, of, hey, respect is really important to me. And when you use this, when you tell me your judgments about me, it's difficult for me to connect with respect, to feel respected. So would you instead keep those in your head, for example? You're not asking them not to judge, because most of us can't do that, but maybe you're asking them as a first step to just not say them, to keep them in their head. It's a very different conversation than the blaming. You're always judging me, and you never value me, you never respect me. Most of us can't get beyond that. That if we speak like that, it's going to get us tangled up with the other person. Does that make sense,
Yeah,
Eugene?
exactly. And it just perpetuates the same kind of behavior and the same kind of focus. The fact that you don't do that, you don't do that, and it's really hard for that to actually change
Yeah.
when we keep doing that.
And even better is when you find even the smallest act that is respectful from this person towards you, and you recognize that and you value it and you express your gratitude in that moment, very specifically in the way we said before, with the observation, hey, when I did this thing, for example, I got your lunch ready, and you recognize that, and this and that really meant a lot to me. I felt very respected. Thank you for that. Then you start giving them a map for what to do more of, because oftentimes people don't do it out of bad will or anything like that, or bad intentions. They just don't know. They don't know how to do things differently. So you need to tell them what
That
works for
makes
you to meet your needs. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because if we don't communicate these things, they how would they know, and how
Yeah.
would they be able um, to see it and to change that behavior? Because we sometimes think that they should know, and
Yeah.
that doesn't actually work. Plus,
Yeah.
once we, like you said, once we see these gestures and we appreciate them, we give them positive reinforcement, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. And
that
it's
only
not the
leads.
reason. Yeah.
You're saying, sorry.
Yeah, no, that it's not, obviously not the reason. We're not doing it to manipulate them into changing, because they'll catch that. That won't work. But we're doing it from this compassionate type of energy and heart, because we value that, so we share it with them. And then it has the effect of reinforcing, as you say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that nuance that you pointed out.
Mm.
It's important to make sure indeed that it comes from the right place in your heart. And yeah, if we do that, it's it's most probably going to have some amazing results in our relationships. But I also wanted to ask you about some of the things that you teach that go into more detail. I know that you have some courses that you have created.
Yeah, I have two kinds of courses. One is a set of self-directed courses that people can take at any time. It's with a set of videos and materials to practice and to start putting things into their life. They have a Facebook group and a question answer session with me. And then I also have groups that I do completely in person with me. And I think maybe some of the self-directed courses are quite an easy way for people to begin. I have one on the foundations and introduction to nonviolent communication. I have one on true honesty that connects. So how to be really honest and authentic while not losing the connection, fostering the connection between people. I have a short one for couples on how to start talking to each other in a way that creates understanding and goodwill and connection and intimacy, empathy. Yeah. I have one coming up on feedback that is in person that eventually will become self-directed. So how can we give people both positive and difficult so feedback that they can learn from so that they know what to do more of and maybe what to change based on appreciation and offering our truth and our honesty. So there's a whole bunch of courses there.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if you are interested in any of the courses, or if you have a certain situation that you would like to share with Nati, we've talked about this in the beginning. You can write her an email and let her know your situation, and she will point you to the best resource for your situation. I think it's one of the most important things that we can learn in life, besides gratitude, of course, um, to be able to relate in a way, to be able to communicate in a way in which you take care of your own needs, and you're also able to take care of the needs of other people. And like I said, from my point of view, it's one of the biggest things that keep us from feeling grateful. And I believe that it's something very important for us to learn to
Yeah.
to communicate non-violently.
Yeah. If I can share one very last thing, I've been reading a
Sure.
book called Parenting for a Peaceful World. And this psychologist is saying that when you are empathic with people, with children especially, but also with people in general, it changes their brain. It changes the hormones and the neurotransmitters in their brain, which means that you create a brain that is incompatible with violence. He says the
Mhm.
more we do this, the more we'll find that violence disappears and peace will be and harmony will be ever pervasive because our brains will be incompatible with violence. I find that really hopeful and very beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
to think about the everyday interactions, it really, really matters for people when we're empathic and compassionate and grateful.
What a wonderful world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't we all want that world? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
like to 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 use another quote, changing the world begins with us. So if we want to change the world, it's important to start with ourselves. So yeah, I
Exactly.
think it's one of the most important things that we can do, and I'm really glad that we had this conversation. Let our audience know where they can write you the email with their situation, on your website, or you have a
Yeah,
certain
the easiest
email
way is
address.
I think the easiest way is to go to my website and just contact me through there. It's natibeltran.com, and they can just send me an email there through the form, and then we can go from there about their particular situation and how we can help them, whether it's with
Awesome.
themselves. Sometimes people are violent to themselves. Yeah, and
Mm,
nonviolent communication helps a lot to change that, to be
yeah,
grateful to yourself and compassionate towards yourself.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. And if we start with that, it's much easier have a nonviolent communication with other people. And because one of the things that I've realized in my life, at least, is that once people get close enough to us, we tend to treat them like we treat ourselves, and that
Yes.
means we treat them with the good and the bad. Like we treat them, um, we set the same kind of standards for different things for them as well, but we also tend to be as rough as we are with us, with ourselves, with them as well.
Exactly. Sadly,
Yeah.
but it is very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So from this point of view, specifically, I think it's a great um, it's a great thing that we can do for ourselves and for the people around us. So thank you so much, Nati. It's been a real pleasure. And for our listeners, go to natibeltran.com. I will put the link in the description, and you can write her an email and let her know your situation in a few words, and she will point you to the best resource to help you out.
Great. It's been my pleasure, Georgian. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.